similar. This is a IAS organized, similar for Professor Jiang. Now, Professor Jiang is a senior visiting fellow in the IAS. So it's, I think we are very lucky and very fortunate to have Professor Jiang to visit us for the last month or so. And I think, in fact, I probably don't need to introduce too much about Professor Jiang because I believe everybody here knows his name. Maybe met him previously. So I just want to give you a very brief introduction of Professor Jiang. He's an academician and Chinese Academy of Science. And I think he has many titles. The Dean of the Chinese University of 中科院大学 and also the associate editor of ESNT. So everybody want to publish in ESNT, right, for graduate student here. So, and he has many titles here. So. Now his major research field is in environmental chemistry, analytical chemistry, and toxicology. And he has won many national awards, I think twice, or maybe 3 times, on National Science Award Prize. So he's very distinguished scientist. And I personally, I would just like to add, I think Professor Jiang is really a godfather of environmental science research in China. Under his leadership, environmental science research has I call this a great leap, a jump in the international level. Maybe I just give you some idea. About 30 years ago, in 2006, at that time when I tried to apply for professor, then I did the statistics. I looked at a paper published in ESNT. Now at that time, I think UST, if you count the top 10 authors in the greater China area, UST has 3 in 2006. But now I'm not sure where UST is going there. So it means that for the last 10 or 15 years, environmental science research in China has, I think, in terms of increasing the international visibility, has been, developed very, very quickly. And personally, I feel that this is really under Professor Jiang's leadership at the national level. He tried to push very hard, setting very high standards for research and national level here. So today he's going to talk about the trends in environmental science research in China here. So let's welcome Professor Jiang.
It is my great honor here today to give a talk at the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Professor Wang gave me a title, asked me to talk about the frontiers of environmental sciences. 实际上是一个命题作文, so pretty difficult for me to talk about the more general field of modern sciences. I try my best to perform his order. He asked me to do that. Okay, with the quickly development of the world economy, we're facing a lot of challenges. One important challenge is the pollution, environmental pollution. Environmental pollution linked with many aspects. For instance, our health, human health, our ecosystems. Many aspects because of the environmental pollution. Among the pollution, chemical pollution takes majority. Over 80% of the pollution caused by chemicals. We cannot stop chemical industries because chemical industries contribute over, let's say, 16 to 22% of our GDP. Why no? In this case, the quickly increasing of chemicals caused a lot of problem. And because of the increasing of the chemicals, all the chemical for the whole life from industry transportation, application, and finally going to our environment. We have no data processing, no risk assessment. People don't know about the toxicology of the huge amount of chemicals. So in today's talk, I will give, more general talks about the increasing or progress in this field. The starting of environmental chemistry actually simulated by the requirement of environmental protection. Why? We use a lot of chemicals. For instance, DDT was synthesized in the year of 1874. After several decades, like 15 years, no people care about this structure. 55 years later, Dr. Paul Mueller, he found this structure can act as anti-malaria. This is a huge applications to prevent the disease in many fields, in many places, for instance, in Africa. And the function similar as this one, we all know 2-YOYO, Qinghaosu. Both of them won the same field of Nobel Prize, physiology or medicine. But this structure, DDT, more effective compared with artemisinin. Because of huge applications, huge actions against malaria, since the year of 1939, lots of applications, huge applications of DDT being used in our daily life in industries. As a consequence, our ecosystems affected by DDT. So the year of 1962, we know this person, Rachel Carson. She published a book called Silent Spring, and it caused public and government attention because the consequence caused by the exposure of DDT in our environment, especially in the US. And the same year, Environmental Science and Technology start publications. Back to that, 10 years ago, 1954, environmental sciences, the terminology started being used by a chemist, a marine chemist. He started to use the environmental sciences. And 1948, WHO established after World War II. And 17 years later, the International Agency for Research on Cancer started the organization located in France, in Paris. In 1971, in China, because the industry development, we have a lot of problems. The problem caused by heavy metal pollution, organic pollution. So China started the protection, environmental protection, and organized the first time national conference to protect our environment, and started the government organizations for environmental protection. 1972 is the most important years in our human development because UNEP established the year of 1972. This is a milestone because after 1972, all the actions to protect the environment being organized by UNEP. So after that, in 1992, sustainable development came to us because people thinking the sustainability is most important in terms of environmental protection. And recent years, recent decade in China, all people know the ecological civilizations, being used, the terminology. We have an argument about the process of the idea, the translation, but we have no other better understanding. Probably ecological civilizations is defined as the following. We need to consider our environmental protection by using the ecology viewpoint. We need to consider long-term, globally, not only problem to problem. So this is a general procedures for environmental sciences. And why we care more about environmental pollution? Because China now are facing quite complicated environmental situations. We have high industry pollution levels and a very low development efficiency. For instance, China, the cement still takes half of the world production, but its contribution to our GDP is only 10%. So the lower efficiency of our production is the most important aspect for the pollutions. And we are facing all the pollution. We have no pollution problem being solved from 1950s, 60s, 70s till now. And for long term, we have several problems like acid rain from source to north of our land, soil contamination, marine pollution, heavy metals, food contaminations. And now the regional environmental problems, for instance, indoor air pollution, drinking water contamination, disinfection, disinfection, pesticide, regional, the cancer from different local press, different cancer, professional exposure or endocrine disruptors. And globally, the future pollution problem, for instance, emerging contaminated organic pollutant, e-waste, and of course, the health consequence. For instance, the e-waste generation in China, Chinese government said we will stop to import e-waste from outside of the China. But if you look at the number, the trend, by the year of 2030, China will become #1 in the production of e-waste. We can also solve the problem ourselves. So this is a huge challenge for us. And the Haze is the most public concern, challenging problems. If you look at the data, 2009, almost half of the year suffered with Haze. In Shanghai, 200 days. Guangzhou, 150. Shenzhen, close to Hong Kong, also half. And from 2011, U.S. Embassy in Beijing start to measure the Haze concentrations in China. During that time, we're thinking different things during that time. Now, if we reconsider about the action, we think this action promoted China to monitor, to take care, to pay attention to the Haze problems. And why we care more about that? Because the fine particles can go through different routes to affect human health. Last year, there's a news called pollution particles like PM2.5, PM10 can get into the brain. And if you look at read this article, cancer, morbidity and mortality in China, this is the big data analysis. I should tell our student the impact factor for this paper, 244. We have a chemist like Professor Wu. He used to publish the paper with high impact factor in chemistry field. But if you compare with this chemistry, the impact factor is nothing. And more important, the paper, if you look at the citation, I read materials several days ago. They searched over 120 years Chinese people published we call ACI papers. The first 4 papers in the field of medicine, not in chemistry. But if you count the number of publications, among 100 papers, 32 belong to chemistry. But the highest citations in the field of medicine, this paper, I mean the morbidity and mortality in China, the cancer, caused the highest 2016 publication, 6,000. Why? Because people care more about this problem. And the problem, why the problem happened? Because the pollution. Nowadays, almost every day, 10,000 people being identified as cancer. Every minute, 7 people in China. And the WHO said over 90% of cancer closely linked with pollution. This paper said air pollution, water pollution is the major sources of morbidity and mortality. 死亡率和发病率. And air pollution in China, you can see compared with world globally, the air pollution contributed being ranged the 8th, but in China, the factors number 4. And the recent paper said pollution is the largest environmental causes of disease. 2015, 9 million people died early because of their pollution. And this is a journal, International Journal for Cancer. Normally, this journal only publishes paper in the field of oncology, ecology. They never care about environmental pollutions. But now, if you read their publications, over 50 papers discuss about environmental pollution, environmental exposure, and the oncology and health consequence. WHO said outdoor air pollution causes lung cancer, so they regulate the PM 2.5 as a first grade. If you look at the contributions from different environmental factors, air pollution takes the majority part of the morbidity and mortality. Water pollution, occupational pollution, soil, chemicals, and metals. So some people, if you're working on the heavy metal pollutions, maybe you don't believe the contributions of the metal pollutions, only this few part. This paper published in Lancet 2016. You can read the paper. So air pollution is the most important factors nowadays. Even I'm not working in this field, but I believe this study is true. And more than cancer, not only the cancer, diabetes also linked with environmental pollution. In China, 1 in 4 people with diabetes, because the pollution can interfere the immune systems in our body and cause diabetes. So this is also a new discoveries and new ideas from a recent research. We found that. And from 2011, Chinese government paid a lot of attention to control the air pollutions. As a consequence, as a result, you can see 2013, the average concentration is 72. Now, Last year, 42. We have action 10, air control action 10. They have a big requirement. We need to control their pollution at 35. 35, WHO's second grade. The regulation data, 35. 2020 to 2030. So probably we can perform this. We can reach the control the air pollution down to 35. But 35, safe, not safe, because 35 is still too high, the concentrations. If you look at the data from the US, many years ago, they conducted investigations, a big data investigations from 50 US states. They found with the decrease, this is the increase rate, this is decrease. With the increase of the air pollution, the quality, like 20, from 5 to 20, the average lifetime decreased. And their studies, the highest is 20, the lower from 5. That means the very bad air conditions in the US is 20. But now, in China, we want 35. And 35, maybe we still need 10 years or 10 more years. So this is the huge difference. And we have a lot of studies that said the lung cancers have closely linked with the Haze pollutions. These studies happened in Guangzhou. And according to our investigations, we found the DNA adduct from one city. You take samples from the street, you found that the DNA adduct was pretty high, even higher than professional exposure. We know DNA adduct, if the DNA adduct cannot be repaired, it will cause damage, and the further damage will cause cancer or disease consequence. If this prediction is right, so we will solve a lot of dangerous factors because of today's air pollution. I have calculated like smoking at a death rate. The highest smoking rate in the worldwide, you can see from between 1950 and 1975, probably 1969, around this. And the peak, the highest death rate of lung cancer, 20 years later. If this prediction is right, so today's air pollution will cause lung cancer probably 10 more years, 20 more years later, not today. So this is the most of our concern, the air pollution today. So let's look at the China's development of the environmental sciences. During the past 20, 30 years, the field have achieved a lot, progress a lot. If we look at the EST, probably we can tracking our development step. The first paper in EST from China, from Nanjing University, Professor Wang Liansheng. I know probably some people from Nanjing University. Prof. Wang, he published the paper, linked the HKUST model to prediction, the risk of chemicals. The second paper, 1997, Professor Zhu Lizhong from Zhejiang University. Wang Feiyue, I think at that time from Peking University, Wang Feiyue, Dr. Wang Feiyue. This is 1997. And 1998, Professor Zhao Zhentai photo degradations, 处理中文跟 soil pollution. Professor Tong, our center, like water pollutions. So 1, 2, 3 papers, 1995. I'm so sorry because my paper published this in years not too early. The year of 2000, I published the paper discuss about the speciations. But till now, I published 110 papers in EST. The year of 2005, EST announced the ACR phase established in Beijing. And this is our open ceremony. You have been there during that time? No?
Yeah.
Professor Li, he's now associate editor of EST. And our office established in 2006. And Professor Jerry, the editor-in-chief, said we located the office in Beijing in recognition of your leadership in Asia. You, not me, it's China. China's leadership in this field. And also he said he hoped to blaze the trail for other journals to locate editor office in China. 2006 till now, 13 years passed. I think this becomes true. Majority, almost all journals by ACS that have located the office or editorial associate editors in China. Look at the publications, changed 15 years from 1995, as I mentioned, one paper. So my contributions 2000, one of the 12, and now 2018 we published paper 500. So this is a huge progress. Several years ago, probably 10 years ago, some students asked me how to compare our publications in EST with US. Can we reach the same number? I said no. Probably during my lifetime, I cannot see that. I answered the question 10 years ago. But now, if you see this, probably I can see we can keep the similar level at least. Probably someday, China will take number one in the publications in this field of EST. But I still said our quality, we need to improve our quality. If compared our quality with US paper, our quality still need to improve. We have more people can publish papers in EST. This is the calculations, the contributions institute. 2018 in China, mainland China, we have 115 institute and university published paper in EST. But of 1995, only one. You can see the increasing very quickly. And our center, we contribute to the biggest 473 papers at Peking University, Tsinghua University, Nanjing University. This is a Guangzhou Institute of Geochemistry, JIANG University, Tongji, at Harbin. Year of 2004, we only have 60 papers. This is the contributions. Next year, 2005, 55 papers. And I have calculated the first, number one, number two, number three, the total contributions. The year of 2007 is about 40. And next 2008, down to 31. And then 2009, 2027. So every year, the first three institutes, their contributions decreased. That means most people, most institutes, they can publish paper in EST. All the data, 2014 down to 20, 21, 24. So all the similar. That means more people can publish in EST. This is good for China, good for this field. We still need working hard because if you look at the best paper from EST, only a few papers contributed from China. Most paper also comes from US and Germany, Europe, even Japan. My research. After 2 years, let's see, teaching from Shandong University. I graduated from Shandong University, Department of Chemistry. I studied chemistry during my university time. And after 2 years, I joined this institute called Environmental Chemistry. And this institute, in the year of 1986, becoming a research center for eco-environmental sciences. During that time, eco-environmental sciences is a new idea. Our professors during that time they don't exactly understand the meaning. What is the eco-environmental sciences? If you look at it today, this is a big, probably a huge progress in the field because we use the ecological idea to solve environmental problems. Now, our people know Chinese EPA. They also changed their name, called Environmental Ministry of Environment Department. And our center, we have an integrated area system. We have 3 state key lab, many laboratories distributed in different fields: environmental sciences, engineering, ecology, biotechnique, air pollution, soil pollution, nano environmental sciences, and waste treatment. We have contributions, of course, during the. I'm the deputy director from 16 years service. And as the founding directors of the State Key Laboratory of Environmental Chemistry and Toxicology, we now have 106 former staff. And myself also the dean of the, we call it Gukada, College of Resources and Environment. As you see, we have 5 A+. This is important. Nowadays in China, it's a new fashion because if you 985 university, 985大学, you must have A+. But our college, we have 5. And I'm also the president of we call the China Association for Instrumental Analysis. We have a CRA prize awards. If you like, you can apply for instrumentations and a BCRA every 2 years. This year's October, we will have our meetings. This is a truly international meetings. And our state key level, we are working on environmental analytical chemistry, environmental process, toxicology, and the health. We have different PI, many PIs. For instance, this guy, Francisco, he's working on the field of pollutant stem cell toxicology. My own group, I have the following 4 aspects of studies. For the speciation, during the old time in 1980s, I'm working on different kind of heavy metals, their speciation analysis in environmental process. For instance, I found dimethyl mercury from Beijing in 1989, and also different techniques in this time. And I improved the detection limit by using new mechanism. This is the new mechanism. by using fluorescence, different, we call it emission wave, surface emission, we call it blue emission. This is red emission, commercial instrumentations. This is our new inventions. And also we found different measurated for mercury. For over a long term, we know mercury, arsenic, lead, they can be becoming methylated compound from inorganic to organic species. That means if the heavy metals become methylated species, their bioavailability will change, will increase a lot, and their damage effect will increase a lot. I think the question is, if we can find more heavy metals, they can be also methylated. So this is the number one question. The second question in my mind, we found more donor. Which chemicals contribute to the methylations? So for these two questions, we keep studying several decades. I can tell you, we did not find any new metals, but only found some new donors. For instance, this is a new donor, the compound, this iodine machine that can contribute pretty easily to promote the formation of methyl mercury. Also, we found if the molecules contains oxygen, any molecules, if it contains oxygen, they can promote the formation of methyl mercury. And the second research field, Profs, I started the proposal in 1997. This is the applications teaching. So the applications for distinguished young scholars. Now this fund become more famous in China. During the year of 1998, my title of application to a specialization of environmental fate of toxic chemicals. And also a response for the first project supported by Ministry of Science and Technology. We call the State High-Tech Development Plan. We are trying to screening and control environmental endocrine disruptors. And during that time, endocrine disruptors in China, we have many different names for these. For instance, you can see these Chinese expressions. For our first step, we need to unify the Chinese term. So we discuss, named this environmental endocrine disruptors. We publish our idea in small articles, small journals. And now people agree to us, or people call environmental endocrine disruptors. This is the first work of our study in POPs. And then we found the molecular biomarkers. This is water-regenin. Water-regenin is a protein, a cursor protein, because if the fish or animals affected by endocrine disruptors, they will create water-regenin for the first step, at the molecular step. Furthermore, we found a new bioindicators, the impulse sex, also caused by endocrine disruptors in malarial systems. Nowadays, it's pretty easy to find these phenomena. And by our study, we found a muscle. This muscle can accumulate a huge amount of organoids, very high bioaccumulations. So we make this now as a standard reference materials because it contains all tributyltin, dibutyltin, and butyltin. You cannot find the second species contains all those three species. The year of 2003 is the most important year because I chair the National Basic Research Program of Profs. We call it HKUST. This program we designed to study the environmental concentrations of POPs, their environmental behaviors, and the control strategy. Our study, we supported the performance of the Stockholm Convention because the Stockholm Convention was started in 2001. And during that time, for many new chemicals, we even have no data about their environmental pollutions, industries, and the productions. We started working in the North Pole, South Pole, and the Chinese Tibet Plateau. We tried to link the three polar because we all know POPs that have transportations like a grasshopper effect. They can accumulate it in these three areas. Now we have many data about the concentrations or transportations in these three areas. And we start an international conference because in 2004, I have been appointed as a group leader for we call the innovation team by Chinese Academy of Sciences. So we start an international meeting. So till now, we have organized like 15 times. This is the international conference, and this year's conference will be in New York, Stevens Institute of Technology, close to New York. And our national conference, this conference, 2002, will start from JIANG universities. Now, the people participated in the meeting in the year of the ninth in JIANG University reached to 6,000. This August 15 to 19th, our 10th National Conference on Environmental Chemistry will attract, I guess, over 7,000 people. We have 63 different sessions. So welcome you to join this meeting. If you said, sorry, I have no money to pay the registration, you contact with me. I can waive your registrations. Professors, some professor, if you said, oh, I have no money to pay the airfare, okay, probably I can also pay that, but not all of you. Our research on emerging chemicals, we start working on brominated from retardant, PFCs, salt chain, chlorinated paraffins, or only a few part of our work disinfection by products. Let's see, from 2000, we published the paper in perchlorate. This also belongs to emerging chemicals. PBD 2005, P4 2006. The first paper in China, salt chain chlorinated paraffin, we published in Chinese journal, Environmental Chemistry, 2009. And 2014, CBD, this structure is also being limited by Stockholm Conventions. 2008, we decided to start to found, to discover new structures from Chinese environment. We published this paper in 2009. This structures, new structure, we call it DBC. 2010 PIFI 11, all these new structures being identified in Chinese environment. And all the structure, we published the paper in EST. 2006, I gave a talk in a national meeting called Emerging Environmental Pollution Study, Where is the Way? Where is the way for our future? This is the year 2006, and we decided to identify new structures from our environment. As I mentioned, we found 80 new structures. We developed different approaches, 1, 2, 3, 4 approaches. For instance, effect-directed analysis is a very effective way to find the structure. If you found a structure with endocrine disruptors, you use endocrine cell line to do the first screening. And to summarize our studies during the past several decades, we decided to publish a series of books in this field. Till the middle of this year, 20 books we will finish our publications. We also decided to publish the Chinese book in English version by spring. They will finish the publication probably next year, 20 books. Of course, we got a lot of awards. Our third research field, nano-applications and impact. Why do that? Because environmental nanotechnology can play key role to solve the control environmental pollutions. For instance, nanomaterials can have a very effective way to absorption, catalysis, fluctuation, also degradations. At the meantime, people care more about the biological effect. We call the impact. So our studies starting from 2001, we studied the nanotube, multi-wall nanotube as absorbent. In 2004, we used nanoion to destruct PBDs. This paper published in EST. 2005, we studied nanosilver. Why nanosilver? Because the number one applications in nano products is nanosilver. No, number two. Nanoion, the modifications. This paper published in EST caused a big number of citations. Graphene in 2008. Now, my student is working on black phosphorus, the two-dimensional materials. The most important thinking during that time, we want to give a best explanation to shift the public opinions about nanomaterials. If materials from liquid to become nanoparticles, is this process increase the toxicity or decrease? This is the key questions. By our studies, we found the case of a nanosilver. When it becomes nanoscale, the toxicity decreased a lot. But we also found another examples. Another examples is nanoselenium. When from the selenium to become a nanoscale, the toxicity increased. So this is the opposite examples. The two examples we want to see the situations, the toxicity of nanomaterials depend on case to case. You cannot simply say the nanomaterials is dangerous or less toxic. Depend on the different situations. But we can do surface modifications to control the properties of toxicity. We also found the stable silver isotope fluctuations from our real environment. By the biological process, some nanoparticles can accumulate in 107 or in 109. By doing that, we can clearly indicate the sources, where it comes from, the nanosilver. And we also found the way to distinguish the sources of silicon nanoparticles. We published this paper very recently. And we summarized our study and published in Chemical Reviews. Now, we have a very big team working in this field, especially in nanosilver, from application, toxicology, and the surface modifications. The last part of our study is molecular toxicology. I started to create the idea we call integrated toxicology, the year of 2005. By doing that, I want to make a machine called integrated toxicology analyzer. I got money, 3 million from Chinese Academy of Sciences. And then we got a patent. Year of 2014, we got a big money from ASFCs. So if you look at the money from ASFCs, my name is linked to about 12 or 13 in the field of National Science Foundation of China because the big amount of money. We will use the money to construct our machine systems. We will finish these machine systems this year. It takes about 320 square meters, a big room. Why do that? We want to use these machine systems to identify new chemical structures. At the meantime, we want to know the structures, the new chemicals, their toxicity properties by doing the cell analysis. So this is the idea. If this machine being used, we can know many new structures from our environment and know their toxicity. Also, this machine can be used for identify in food contaminations, in chemical industries, or even army staff. In many fields can be used, these machine systems. I also chair the program supported by Chinese Academy of Sciences. We call it Environment and Health. We want to study the interaction between pollutant and the biotas. Chinese Academy of Sciences, they support us 5,000. No. Every year, 5,000万, yes, yeah, correct. 5 years, 2.5个亿 for this study. Why do that? We want to understand the roadmap, to make the roadmap, how to study the environmental consequences, the health affected by environmental pollution. So this is the very first beginning, because in future, this is a huge field. The environmental pollution, eventually they will cause health damage. And the imperative challenges, what are the frontiers of environmental sciences? What do we need to do? What are the emerging challenges? I think we should follow the government task. From recent years, 3 years, government Chinese government always said we have 3 tough battles, 3 tough tasks. The last one, pollution control. Of course, is the mitigation of social or financial risk, precise poverty relief, 真民扶贫. Pollution control. We have 2 top national priorities. This is reduce air pollution. Air pollution is a huge problem in China. It's #1 of environmental pollution in China, and also preventing the cancer and other disease. So this is the imperative challenges for us. Chinese government decided to increase the investment from last year. This year, the increase rate will be 48%, reach the 60 billion in this field. If most half of the money will invested to water pollution, 300亿水污染，25 billion for air pollution and 50 for soil pollution. This year we will decrease like nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide to decrease 2% or 3%. This is very important task. 2% is not a big number, but it's very, very difficult for us. What is the imperative challenge? I think the most important because of the fast increasing of chemicals. Therefore, 2015, the worldwide registered chemicals become 100 million, 1个亿. Now the steps, if you search the website, it increases very, very fast. This data from 2018, February, 1 year ago, now I quite believe this number will become 5. Every day, around 40,000 new chemicals being produced. The annual rate is about 15 to 20%. For all those chemicals, the whole life cycle, we have no data, especially about the toxicity. No people know their toxicity. But unfortunately, many new species, many new chemicals now entered in our body, in our blood, in all the human systems. It keeps increasing in some species. For instance, my student, now he has published a paper joint with Professor Qiang. He found the new species like PFCs in polar bear, many new structures, and the concentrations still keep increasing, even like PFOS being limited by Stockholm Conventions. In North Pole, the polar bear, their concentrations still increasing. So this is the important trend. And all the chemicals, they have different properties. Like before we don't know, the chemicals can affect the evolution at the gene levels. Also, they have a low dose effect. So we need to consider about that. The control, how to control the chemicals, how to understand their toxicology aspect is most important imperative. And the second challenge is the Haze studies. We know the formation from industries, coal combustions, car discharge, agriculture, and natural sand. We also know how to control their pollution. Of course, we need the technique, but in the toxicology, health risk aspects, we don't understand how many toxic matters we can find. We can identify it from fine particles like PM2.5. and their toxic effect and health risks. So this is the challenges for us. And if we look at the publications by Nature and Sciences from 2010, most papers in this field contributed to like formation. People want to understand the formation mechanism, but no one paper published in Nature Science about the toxicology aspect, because we don't know. We know very, very little about this field. And we have organized a key project supported by National Science Foundation of China. We call it Toxicology Health Effect of Fine Particles. Professor Yi, she joined this project. Professor Li, many professors from Hong Kong joined this program. And we also want to trace and identify the sources of PM 2.5. We want to understand new chemicals from the PM 2.5, the fine particles. For instance, people said in the fine particles, it's changing from time to time. Today's fine particle is different from yesterday, from a year ago, from 10 years ago. Now, over 70% of the chemicals, we don't know their structures. And then how many chemicals can be identified from a single particles, we also don't know. The third imperative challenges is water quality. Even now, we can see the water quality from big rivers, big lakes, is gradually changing, becoming better, much better nowadays. Eutrophication also changing. But we still have a problem. For instance, the black and old water. It's extremely special question scenario in China. Now we have a program to treat it like this. Last year, I took pictures during the morning walking exercise in a small. This is not a county. I think a small village. We found this place, Jiangsu province, Nantong. Probably you know this our small bridge. You can see the water, very, very black, very, very old. So we have 2,000 places like this, at least. I hope we can change the situation very recently. The second question from water pollution disinfection byproducts from our drinking water. People worry more about this because we can find more deodorized from the disinfection process. And the third problem from water pollution is underground arsenic pollution. In China, we have 6 provinces. People suffer from this. For instance, in Shanxi province, this is a Hetao Basin, Hetao 地区. This is a Sanying County. We conducted our investigations in this field. We found the highest concentrations in underground water. People drinking this water, the arsenic concentration is over 1,000, extremely high. WHO and the Chinese standard is about 10 ppb. The consequence, if you're drinking this water, is called black food. This is a one-way result, no other result. And more important, all the places with the high concentrations of arsenic pollution, people have a higher rate of lung cancer, many diseases associated with arsenic pollution. So this is, I think, the most important in water pollution, the protections. We need to take care about that. In conclusion, very simple conclusions. I think environmental sciences, just like this picture, I take these pictures from a sea. Like this illustration, we will find more job, more fund, more opportunity to development, to promotion yourself. Because this field linked with national highest priority, like air pollution, and linked with research frontiers. Almost every point is frontiers, hot issues. In our science and technology development, more important, it's linked with our future. Our future linked with the many aspects, but environmental pollution affect human beings' life. For instance, in this city, Hong Kong, the average lifetime for people is 86. But in mainland China, your hometown, 75. Why? Pollution is the most important factors. We hope in future, mainland China, the Hong Kong will keep the same lifetime. Your parent, our parent, we have the same levels of lifetime, 86. I don't know. We need working hard to that. So for today's talk, this is my conclusions. I have no new idea. I cannot tell you if you work in this field or this field, you can publish a paper in EST. I cannot guarantee, but I see this is the most important professions, not only in China, but also in the world. So thank you very much for your attention.
So in your talk, so I will ask you a general question. So what's the difference between JIANG and Biomarker projects? The second question is a specific question. So you talk about the toxicity of nanoparticles and dissolved species. So you said for silver nanoparticles, so it's less toxic than a dissolved silver ion. But for the other, I believe it's selenium nanoparticles, more toxic than dissolved selenium. So what are the mechanisms behind? Also, could you give us a little bit more information on the effects-directed analysis of emerging pollutants, because there are so many emerging pollutants, as you said, over 100 million of them.
Okay. I like Professor Zhang's question. He always have questions, many questions. Thank you. The first question is pretty easy. What is the difference between 863, 973? 863和973的区别？But this history, no more 863, no more 973. The beginning, from the very beginning, in 1986, several scientists suggest to Deng Xiaoping about the high-tech development in China, because during that time, China need high technology. Because in 1980s, the very beginning of the open policy for China. So for the first priority, we need the technology. So Baliusan focused on, we call the National High-Tech Development Plan, focus on technology aspect. In the meantime, 10 more years, 1997, people think if we only focus on technology, it's not enough. We need to focus on basic research. So 1997, March, this is called 973. People, also scientists, suggest to Premier Li Peng about the basic research program. So from 1997 at March, we start, I think the first portion of 973 started from 1998, focused on national basic research. So national basic research program, this is different. But nowadays, we changed the idea. The government has said you should start from basic research to production to money. You need money. So this is called 一体化设计. But I have a different idea because many researchers, many professors, they can only focus just study part of them. If you try to link it, you need a long term. Probably you cannot perform that. But we have some suggestions. Let's see. I don't know the result. It's still enhance. You need 全链条创新. It's very, very difficult. The second question is about nano toxicology, selenium. Why selenium, when from inorganic, become nanoparticles associated with the increase of toxicity? This because of the factor, if the nanoparticles becoming more capable of combined with our tissues, because the bioavailability is changing from selenium to nanoparticle. Selenium is water soluble, but nanoparticles is organic soluble. So this is different. When selenium become nanoselenium, the solubility in organic increased. And that means the ability to combine with a human body increased. So that is the reason. And he has the third question.
You have minutes.
I know the third question about the emerging chemicals. We have a lot of emerging chemicals. If you ask me what, give a definition about emerging chemicals, I should say all the new things happened to our environment can be called emerging chemicals because they are new features. We don't know the structures, we don't know the concentrations, we don't know their effect. I listened to a talk several months ago in the US. People listed iron liquid. You know iron liquid? Iron liquid as an emerging chemicals. So I gave a talk last week in Xiangshan Huiyi. All the people in the field of chemical engineering said, you guys working on nano liquid, but now iron liquid. But now iron liquid being listed as emerging contaminants. Why? These chemicals is very, very stable. It's pretty difficult to destruct. It's also belong to emerging chemicals. And we have many emerging chemicals. Some people list nano. Only few part of nanoparticles, I think, can be listed. Most nanoparticles is still far away from us. But if you measure the samples from the drinking water, from the big river system, from waste treatment, the nanoparticles can be easily found. My student detect nano TiO2, TiO2, 二氧化钛. He conducted an experiment. He tried to connect drinking water worldwide, everywhere. Asked students, bring drinking water for me to measure TiO2. He found majority samples, the drinking water contains TiO2. Where the TiO2 comes from, man-made, not natural. We have isotope fractionation techniques. We can indicate the sources, but it's also emerging. I don't know how long we can call the emerging contaminator. Someday we can stop. We will find a new terminology, but now we use emerging. In Chinese, the translation, we have different ideas. We call it 新型化合物, 形状的形. Some people in Taiwan use the 兴旺的兴. So different ideas. But in my mind, I think new type is probably, if you translate it from English, we have no Chinese word, the correct response for emerging chemicals. Very, very difficult.
Continuing on the emerging chemicals, I'm wondering if there is a statistics on what is the source of these chemicals, which industries produce these emerging chemicals.
Most of the emerging chemicals actually from the chemical industry, but not directly emitted from the factories because of the applications. For instance, PFCs. PFCs, in most cases, being used in like fireproof, 防火, also 电镀, many fields. The applications, if you use the applications, they can emit it from the process. And the chemicals like PFOS, this compound is more stable. The structure, if you look at the structure, it's more and more stable, difficult to destruct the structures. And they have bioaccumulation features. From water system, the concentration is lower, to the biota, the concentration is high. We have published a paper in EST in 2006. We investigated the concentrations in our blood, 22 provinces in China. We found the concentrations pretty high. And this compound, the circle from our blood systems, and no way to eliminate it, this compound. Since the year of 2009, the Stockholm Convention regulated the usage, no more usage of PFOS. If you measure today in our blood, the concentrations of PFOS decrease, but the rate slow, very, very slowly. So that is why we take care about that. And also, people thinking about the way to produce a substitute chemicals to replace PFOS. Because the structure is very, very stable, people think if we can insert oxygen between the structures, it will be easy to destruct. By doing this way, now we have many products being available. The evaluation, we have known now the result. But as you say, we cannot stop use any kind of chemical like PFOS. We need these chemicals for better life.
I have a very general question. Based on my own knowledge, I found the paper and
Speak loud. I cannot hear about you. Also, I think other students cannot hear about you.
I found the paper which is about the nanotechnology or nanotoxicology published in ESD is decreasing in the recent year, and I think it's facing the bottleneck 瓶颈. So what's your idea about this and the development of nanotoxicology? So how can the student who work in this field can publish paper in
It's a very good question. Probably I can answer your question. Also, I ask Professor Li Xiangdong to ask your question. Xiangdong, your turn. Okay. He asked. I can do that. The field of nanotechnology. Why people working? Students like working in nano technology. I have my experience. When I ask a student when they join our team, what kind of project they want, the student says, I want to work in the nano-related studies. I said, why? He said, because the publication is easy, the citation is high, and I should say, maybe you read a paper several days ago about some people, they use nanomaterials to do a long citation, right? Yeah. This is true. And you have more selections. If you publish your paper in EST in the nano field, it's also okay. But you have more attract journals like nano letters, ACS nanos, the impact factor is high, and also many, like nano research, we have a nano impact. The impact factor is high. The basic standard for acceptance, I think, is low. Because in EST, we care more about the integrated of your study. Not only you found out materials, you put some pollutant, you see, the absorbance, the rate increased, all that. We want your studies. It's a complicated story. So sometimes difficult to publish in EST. And you send it to probably SS Nano. The impact factor 14. It's 14 probably, right? Okay, it's easy to find the impact factor higher than EST. This is one reason. Another reason, EST is a complicated, the whole spectrum of environmental sciences and technology. For instance, environmental analytical chemistry, especially environmental processing. We are, personally, I also like the scientific problem created from engineering. When you solve a problem like disinfection, like degraded chemicals, like waste treatment, from this process, if we found scientific questions, if we answer these questions, we like to publish this kind of story. Like his problems, his paper can be accepted easily by EST because ask his Professor Li, also associate editor for EST. He can give you his own idea about that. Please.
Anyway, I thinking Professor Jiang already explained clearly on kind of our review or selection criteria at EST. I'm thinking that, like, compare speaking, for the nano, that definitely is a very hot topic, and there are many things we can actually do a research on. But for EST, I think Professor Jiang just mentioned, I just want to use one example. And if you published in a kind of like a New England Journal of Medicine, that's quite high. Like Professor Jiang have about the cancer research also can be very high. But if you publish in Nature Science, you're aiming for a very wide audience. Like EST, and anyway, Guanghao here, I can't just see like the water research, even a very great journal there. But EST also have a function is we want to serve the nature science for environmental field. So in other words, we are very much also looking about the impact for the whole field, and including environmental science and engineering field. So we have about consider not only for your material advance, but also for the general impact regarding for environmental improvement and whatever about fundamental science research, but also for the engineering application. But just quick idea.
Maybe I add one sentence. I add one sentence. Okay, I have my theory. Okay, now he's asked the question is why? How come the people student working on nanotoxicology is difficult to get published in the S&T? My answer is that the student doesn't think. Okay, the idea is the student need to really come up with a novel idea. Okay, student really need to think about new things there. So if you have this kind of capability, I'm pretty sure you can easily publish paper in S&T. Okay, this is my answer.
Professor, I have a more technical question. You mentioned that you are developing this integrated toxicology analyzer. So does this analyzer handle mixture samples?
What kind of sample?
The integrated toxicological analyzer, the 83 million project.
From the time being, we don't think more about the samples. We start from a typical samples, for instance, sediment. It contains high concentrations of protein.
Yeah.
We need to start from a high concentration, like chemicals component. And then we do some searching for the cell analysis. The most important part is the cell analysis. If the cell no response, the machine system cannot work.
So you take complicated samples, then separate into fractions, then do a series of cell tests.
Yeah. We also consider about the air particles. But for air particles, we need many.
More samples.
Use like water soluble, organic soluble, the component. From our study strategy, we divided our machine development system into two parts. From the very beginning, we're working on the cell analysis from pure chemicals. So this part, from this part, we try to do sample preparation, identification, and the sample distributions. We have a big systems. And then we will combine it together to finish the machine systems.
One follow-up question is, the design goal, at what concentration level of the pollutants you are targeting your analyzer to detect the toxicological effect? Nanogram level, picogram level, or should it be higher?
In fact, in future, when our environmental quality being improved, I think in most cases of study will be low dose response, will be low concentrations. And these concentrations are extremely difficult to study. If you want to know the toxicology of the whole systems, you need to use like biota, you need to use model. So in future, the model is most important. Although we developed some cell mechanism to do screening, but a model like fish model is very important. Few years ago, 10 more years ago, when we perform our body scan, we try to establish a Chinese model, the fish model. We use a fish called a Chinese rare minnow to detect, to respond for contaminants. This fish more sensitive to chemicals. But, for a successful fish model like Madaka, like zebrafish, the trash generation is most important. So this fish cannot do that. They're changing from the first generation, second generation, third generation. We will face a lot of problems. I think another important force or important tool is the calculation of toxicology. now we call the big data. Calculation of toxicology can indicate the toxicology from the structure. We always said structure decided the property from chemicals. Structure decided the toxicity. If we look at the structure, the structure contains benzene. It will be most case, 99% of the case will be carcinogenic, will cause cancer. If the structure is linear, like P4s, the toxicity will be low, but the persistent will be high. I think combined with model, combined with calculational toxicology, we can do that at a low dose evaluations. Also long-term evaluations, almost important. Now we just look at the pollution standards, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. But in future, maybe 10 years, 15 years. For instance, when we studied air pollution, air particles, for us now, it's extremely difficult to find the samples from 10 more years ago. If you can find, we cannot find. Only 3 years or 4 more years. So our study, we have problems. In England, they have samples, environmental samples, 50 years ago. But we have no. We call the environmental specimen, environmental sample bank. No people care about that. No people giving you money to do that.
And I have some questions. The first one, nowadays in China, the government credibility about the environmental protection maybe are becoming more and more cheaper sometimes. So what's the reason you think lead this situation now? And the second question is about the big picture about the environmental protection policies. What should our environmental science research groups do about the policies? If the policies should be developed according to our data, our results, or our research should be followed by all the policies, which one will be more necessary for now Chinese situation? Thank you so much.
From the policy maker, from the government, many people, they feel about the air pollution, the haze. I think the majority people, they don't know the health consequence caused by today's environmental pollution. From research, from a scientist, we need to tell the public, we need to tell the government through our research result, tell them the very, very bad consequence because of today's pollution. From government action, now they want to see the data decrease. Yesterday, today, tomorrow. If the data increases, they were happy. But in fact, nowadays, for the purpose of environmental protection, for many local government, they just simply cut down, close your factory. This is not good choice. What is the scientific decision? I don't know. If you ask me, I have no idea about that. Probably we need more actions. The action should be based on our research. Now in China, not so clear. And air pollution, even worldwide, we have no knowledge about this. We only have some predictions. I hope the prediction will not happen in the future. But unfortunately, I quite believe because they didn't adapt, because our experiment demonstrated the future problems. From the government, they have no good choice some days, because we are facing a lot of problems. They need a clean sky. They need clean water. The soil pollution, some scientists said, the soil pollution is also important because there's a kind of a chain from soil pollution to food. This is also important. In China's today's decision, control is most important. If we don't know the result, the control is first priority. Some days you quite a dilemma to make a decision, like water disinfection. Professor Zhang said that disinfection is the first priority, but I said no, because the water quality in China for drinking water is almost good, not that bad. But air pollution is the number one problem. But I'm not working in air pollution this field. I'm not an expert, but I believe air pollution is number one national priority in environmental protection.
So I would compliment one thing. Just now you mentioned that so for those emerging pollutants containing benzen, and then you said 99% of them are carcinogenic. So actually, several of my PhD students here said they identified many aromatic halogenated compounds in drinking water disinfection. So based on your opinion, so 99% of them are carcinogenic, so which means they are really important.
Good questions. Let's remember, several days ago, I gave a talk to students. I used a Chinese word because I found the word in a country in north part of China, 靖宇县. It said 全情啊，就是那个靖宇县叫全情，无血草，每一棵草是闲着的，年来结良药。你把这个草拿来啊，都是良药。什么意思呢？就是 every field you can find frontiers questions. Professor Zhang said that disinfection, carcinogenic, are important because they form the DNA adduct. Yes, this is true. If you work in this field, you can publish in IAS, you can publish your paper in Nature Sciences for no doubt. I give you another examples. My student come to me, said they have a proposal about microplastics. 微塑料. Now, EST published a special issue about 微塑料. Then many people want to follow the study of microplastics. I said no. I said no. In my group, no this research. Why? Because you cannot follow this. All the people working in this field, if you look at the microplastics, is any special scientific problems from this? Is any different from other part of the research? No, only the subject, only the microplastics. So this is my personal opinion. Some people said no, you can work, no problem. You can also publish in EST microplastics, like your disinfection product, or like the many field you found the scientific frontiers. But from the general, the whole picture, from national choice, national priority, I don't think disinfection should be high. Some people working in the nano, they always said the toxicology is dangerous for future generations because they want to attract more attention. The government said, oh, okay, give money to studies. This is probably sometimes scientific do that. Even the Golden Conference, I will attend the Golden Conference, and you will attend the Golden Conference this year. I will attend 2 times the Golden Conference, 1 nano, 1 disinfection. I don't think this is the important first priority for my job. I think air pollution is number 1 in China.
Thank you. So that's thanks, Professor Jiang again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.